When most people think of Jewish history, their minds often go to the Holocaust, European shtetls, or the Spanish Inquisition. But there's another rich and deeply rooted chapter that is too often overlooked: the story of the Mizrahi Jews. These are the Jews of the Middle East and North Africa, whose history stretches back over 1,500 years to the ancient civilizations of Babylon, Persia, and Mesopotamia. This is not just a story of exile and survival, but also one of deep cultural identity, thriving communities, and an inseparable bond with the lands of the East. Let's explore the origins, heritage, and resilience of the Mizrahi Jewish people, guardians of one of the oldest branches of Judaism. The story of the Mizrahi Jews begins not in exile, but at the center of some of the greatest civilizations in human history. After the first temple in Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BCE, many Jews were taken to Babylon, not as mere victims, but as the seeds of a new chapter in Jewish life. This exile would become the foundation for what is now one of the oldest continuously existing Jewish communities in the world. In Babylon, Jewish life didn't just survive, it flourished. Jews became integral to the economic and intellectual fabric of Mesopotamian society. They weren't strangers in a foreign land. They were native to it, building communities, synagogues, schools, and systems of governance. Most notably, Babylon became the birthplace of the Babylonian Talmud, a monumental work of Jewish law and commentary that still shapes Jewish practice globally today. The cities of Sura and Pumbedita became world-renowned centers of Torah study for centuries. Meanwhile, in Persia, the Jewish community lived through empires, revolutions, and dynasties. Their presence is well documented from the time of King Cyrus the Great, who famously allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. Jews thrived in trade, medicine, and even held positions at royal courts. Despite occasional persecution, they were viewed not as outsiders, but as part of the ancient Persian mosaic. This chapter of Jewish history tells us something crucial. Not all Jewish exile meant marginalization. In the East, Jews often developed alongside the empires that ruled them. They created liturgy, philosophy, and culture that were distinct from their European counterparts. Their prayers had a different rhythm. Their language, often Judeo-Arabic or Judeo-Persian, carried echoes of both Torah and desert poetry. Understanding the Mizrahi Jewish experience means recognizing that Judaism did not only evolve in the shadows of Europe, but also in the sunlight of the East. Long before Sephardic and Ashkenazi traditions came to define mainstream narratives, the Jews of Babylon and Persia were already leaving their mark on history, quietly, steadily, and with unmatched depth. When we speak of Mizrahi Jews, we must understand that the term doesn't refer to a single uniform group. It is a vibrant mosaic of cultures, languages, and histories. The word Mizrahi, meaning Eastern in Hebrew, was only popularized in the 20th century to distinguish these communities from Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews. But long before modern labels, Mizrahi Jews had already built rich, distinct traditions in lands stretching from the Tigris to the Sahara. Consider the Yemeni Jews, one of the most ancient and isolated Jewish communities in the world. Living in the rugged mountains and deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, they preserved ancient Hebrew pronunciation, developed their own script, and composed hauntingly beautiful poetry and liturgy that echoes the sounds of the desert wind. Their Torah scrolls, prayer melodies, and wedding customs are unique. Some believe they preserve aspects of Jewish practice that go back to temple times. Travel north, and you'll meet the Iraqi Jews, descendants of Babylonian exiles who once made up one of the most prestigious and scholarly Jewish communities on earth. By the early 20th century, Baghdad was home to tens of thousands of Jews who contributed to finance, medicine, literature, and politics. They published newspapers, ran schools, and helped shape modern Iraqi identity until history turned against them. Then there are the Persian Jews, whose lineage goes back to the days of Queen Esther and King Xerxes. They spoke Judeo-Persian, adorned their synagogues with Persian motifs, and walked a fine line between maintaining Jewish identity and blending into the Persian cultural fabric. From Syria and Lebanon to Libya and Tunisia, the Mizrahi story is deeply diverse. Some of these communities later mixed with Sephardic Jews expelled from Spain after 1492, adding layers of identity, yet always retaining something uniquely Eastern. Despite centuries of being surrounded by Islamic empires, Mizrahi Jews didn't assimilate or fade. They adapted. They survived. And they contributed. Their customs, from henna ceremonies to maqam-based music, and their integration of local languages into religious life, created a distinctly Eastern Jewish experience. And yet, through all the diversity, they remained united by Torah, tradition, and an unbreakable sense of community. The 20th century was a time of massive upheaval for Mizrahi Jews. For centuries, they had lived as dhimmis, non-Muslims granted protection, but subject to certain restrictions, under various Islamic empires. While they experienced both tolerance and persecution, their communities endured. But with the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the rise of nationalism in the Arab world, and eventually the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, their fate changed dramatically and permanently. Over the course of just 2 to 3 decades, more than 850,000 Mizrahi Jews were forced to flee their homelands. Some left under pressure, others were expelled outright. In Iraq, anti-Jewish laws stripped Jews of citizenship and property. In Egypt, Jewish businesses were nationalized and synagogues burned. In Yemen, Syria, Libya, and Iran, Jews faced violence, political scapegoating, and fear for their lives. Entire communities that had existed for thousands of years vanished almost overnight. Many of these Jews fled to Israel, hoping to find a safe haven. But there, they encountered a new challenge: identity. The early Israeli state was dominated by European, Ashkenazi Jews who often viewed Mizrahi customs as exotic, even inferior. Mizrahi Jews were sent to peripheral development towns, placed in refugee camps, and asked to shed their languages, traditions, and identities in the name of integration. And yet, like always, they endured. Today, Mizrahi culture is experiencing a powerful revival in Israel and the global Jewish world. Their food, spiced, rich, and full of tradition, is now beloved. Mizrahi music, blending ancient melodies with modern rhythms, dominates the Israeli charts. And politically, culturally, and religiously, Mizrahim are asserting their place, not just as a footnote, but as a foundational pillar of Jewish history. The Mizrahi experience challenges us to think differently about what it means to be Jewish. It's not just shtetls and Yiddish, it's also bazaar markets, Arabic chants, desert landscapes, and Judeo-Arabic poetry. It's the wisdom of Baghdad rabbis, the courage of Yemeni parents smuggling their children to freedom, and the echo of prayers that once filled synagogues from Aleppo to Shiraz. Though their exile was painful, the Mizrahi Jews never lost their roots. They carried them, in memory, in prayer, in song. And now, those roots are blossoming again, giving voice to a legacy that the world is finally beginning to hear. The story of the Mizrahi Jews is not just one of survival, it is one of brilliance, beauty, and belonging. For thousands of years, these communities thrived in the heart of the Middle East and North Africa. They prayed in ancient tongues, studied Torah under palm trees and Persian roofs, and created a symphony of faith, culture, and resilience. They were poets in Baghdad, healers in Tehran, merchants in Sana'a, and sages in Aleppo. Their legacy is woven into the very fabric of Jewish history. Yet, for much of the modern era, their story was muted, overshadowed by the dominant European narratives of Jewish identity. But that is changing. Today, Mizrahi Jews are reclaiming their voice. They are not just rediscovering their past, they are reshaping the present. Through music, politics, education, and storytelling, they are ensuring that their heritage is not forgotten, but honored. Because to tell the story of the Jewish people without the Mizrahim is to leave the tale unfinished. Their journey is a reminder that Jewish identity is not monolithic. It is global, diverse, and deeply rooted in lands east of the Jordan. The Mizrahi Jews have always been here. Now the world is finally listening.